जय श्री राधे। श्री वल्लभाधीश की जय। समस्त वैष्णवों को सादर जय श्री कृष्ण। श्री नाथ जी की जय, श्री गोवर्धन नाथ जी की जय, श्री वल्लभाधीश की जय। जय जय श्री राधे. So today is the 63rd day of our readings. Varta 52, the story of Bhagavan Das, a Saraswat Brahmin from Hajipur. Bhav Prakash. In the eternal Leela, he is a Sakhi of Sri Visakhaji named Sugandhini. He was born into a family of Saraswat Brahmins in Hajipur. He once went to the house of one of his clients in Patna and stayed there for some days. He was 17 at the time. Bhagavan Das helped that client a lot and was about to leave when that client offered him only a quarter part of what he should have done. Bhagavan Das angrily refused it. You have hundreds of thousands of rupees, so offering me just that pathetic amount is not appropriate, especially after I have been here such a long time. He left for home, taking nothing with him. Bhagavan Das came before his father and began to cry. Why did the Lord make us into such Brahmins who have to serve such devilish people, even see their faces, just for a few pennies? It must surely be the result of some sin I have committed. His father said that he was going out of town now, and that he would come back when he had earned something from that eastern region. Bhagavan Das addressed his father. You are old now, let me go in your stead. Bhagavan Das travelled beyond Patna. At that very time, Sri Acharyaji was travelling from Varanasi to Sri Jagannath Puri. Bhagavan Das saw him on the road. Bhagavan Das was happy to have found a knowledgeable and righteous fellow traveller. When Sri Acharyaji was talking to the Vaishnavas with him, Bhagavan Das listened from the back of the group. When they reached the camp, Sri Acharyaji told Bhagavan Das to go to Krishna Das to take whatever supplies he needed. Sri Acharyaji told Krishna Das to take Bhagavan Das with him to go and fetch supplies, and then to give Bhagavan Das whatever he asked for. Krishna Das took Bhagavan Das with him, fetched the supplies, and then asked him what he needed. He said that he needed a kilo of sugar, a kilo of ghee, and 2 kilos of flour. Being greedy, he thus asked for 3 days' supplies at once. Krishna Das gave him what he asked for. He prepared some and kept the rest aside. On the 4th day, Bhagavan Das asked Krishna Das to let him do some sort of work or service like fetching water or cleaning the pots for him. But Krishna Das replied that because he was not a disciple of Sri Acharyaji, they would not drink water that he had touched, nor allow him to touch the pots. Bhagavan Das went to Sri Acharyaji and asked, O Maharaj, men of low caste are fetching water for you and cleaning your pots, so why will you not let me touch them, even though I am a Brahmin? Sri Acharyaji replied, in this path, anyone who is not the Lord's devotee, who does not know the Lord, is considered to be of low caste. Anyone, on the other hand, who is a devotee and knows the Lord, is the best and highest caste of Brahmin. We therefore only allow the devotees to do these tasks. Bhagavan Das asked him, but how do you know that even if one is a Vaishnava, they know the Lord? Sri Acharyaji replied that when the Lord showered his grace, then a Vaishnava would know him. Bhagavan Das asked what form this grace might take. Sri Acharyaji replied that when the Guru was happy, then one would know that Sri Thakurji is also pleased. Bhagavan Das said that he had no Guru and asked Sri Acharyaji to accept him as a disciple. Becoming a disciple is very difficult, Sri Acharyaji explained. At the moment you consider yourself to be a respectable Brahmin, and to be a disciple you would have to embrace the humble path of a servant. Do not become a disciple. Bhagavan Das spoke out, but I want to be a disciple. I have been in a position of respect for a long time now and have only ever experienced sadness. Please accept me. Sri Acharyaji gave him the first initiation of the Lord's name and then allowed him to fetch water, clean the pots and spread cow dung on the walls and floor to purify them. He also gave him part of his leftover prasad. When Bhagavan Das partook of this prasad, his intelligence was purified. He thought to himself, I was very greedy to take supplies for a whole 3 days. He had 5 rupees tied up in the corner of his upper garment, which he gave to Sri Acharyaji with his plea, O Maharaj, I was greedy and took supplies for 3 days, which was bad behaviour on my part. I was a fool. I had not recognized your true form. Please therefore forgive me. You are the Lord himself. Please let me have the second Brahman Sambandh initiation and seal my surrender. Sri Acharyaji told him to return the next day and that he should keep the 5 rupees which he might find useful. Bhagavan Das said that since he had already given it back to Sri Acharyaji, he could not possibly take it back. Sri Acharyaji kept it and initiated Bhagavan Das with the Brahma Sambandh the next day. Bhagavan Das stayed with Sri Acharyaji for a whole year and served him well. In the summer he made a huge fan and gave shade to Sri Acharyaji whilst they were travelling. Wherever Sri Acharyaji slept, he spread a very pure sheet after cleaning the floor. He served in the kitchen. Pleased with him, Sri Acharyaji gave him his sandals to serve, with orders to serve them skillfully. He told Bhagavan Das to go home. Bhagavan Das asked Sri Acharyaji to accompany him home and there initiate all the family members. Sri Acharyaji pointed out that his family members were not divine souls and that they would therefore not like to surrender. You alone will carry out the service. Bhagavan Das returned to Hajipur, having paid his respects. He prepared a separate place for his seva and began to serve with all his heart. It was not long before Sri Thakurji allowed him to experience him directly. Part 1. After not too long, Sri Acharyaji came to Bhagavan Das's home. He cooked, offered and partook. He left his leftovers to Bhagavan Das. He even initiated Bhagavan Das's parents and wife with the Lord's name. Then he left for Adel. Bhagavan Das began to worship the place where he had been sitting. He constructed a raised area there, like a simple throne. He would bathe every day and bow to that place with the heartfelt mood that Sri Acharyaji himself was actually still sitting there. Sri Acharyaji blessed him by appearing to him and discussing with him. Bhagavan Das was thus a recipient of great grace. Thus concludes Varta 52, the story of Bhagavan Das, a Saraswat Brahmin from Hajipur, although in reality there is no end to his story. Varta 53, the story of Bhagavan Das, a Sanchora Brahmin. Bhav Prakash. In the eternal Leela, he is a Sakhi of Sri Lalitaji named Sundari. He was born into a Sanchora Brahmin family in a village near Rajnagar in Gujarat. From the age of 8, he went to a Pandit in Rajnagar to study. He studied for 10 years. That Pandit went to Dwarka to have the sight of Sri Ranchurlaji. On the way there, he met with Sri Acharyaji and began to debate with him. He was sadly defeated every time. He returned to his tent and told Bhagavan Das that he would now go to Varanasi to gain some more knowledge, and then he would come back to debate again with Sri Acharyaji. He invited Bhagavan Das to go with him. Bhagavan Das, however, said that he wanted to have the sight of Sri Ranchurlaji. I have only just arrived, and it is not time for me to move on yet. I want to stay there for a month and enjoy the presence of the Lord. The Pandit said he was going on to Varanasi and that they would meet him again some day. The Pandit arrived in Varanasi. Bhagavan Das, on the other hand, approached Sri Acharyaji, bowed to him and supplicated, "O Maharaj, that Pandit was unable to respond to you in debate. Shamed he has taken himself to Varanasi. I was studying him, so will you now please become my teacher?" Sri Acharyaji asked him, "What will you do with so much knowledge?" Bhagavan Das replied that if he became very clever, he would be able to earn a lot of money. I would be respected everywhere where such learned people gather. I will be able to defeat anyone who comes to debate with me, and I shall be famous and people will worship me. Sri Acharyaji explained that there can be 2 rewards for knowledge. One can study by reading the Shastras. These scriptures are like 2 internal eyes, cool in nature like water, which when open bring all knowledge. The learned person in this category is themselves like cooling water, and their minds become very peaceful. They regard all occurrences of joy and grief as the Lord's own wish. They see the Lord in everyone and everything. They are humble, satisfied and pure, and have no anger or other negative characteristics. When they take shelter in the Lord, then they are the most clever. They have attained the fruit of all their studies. They are happy in this world and the next. On the other hand, where the learned person is an unworthy small vessel, then their knowledge becomes like fire. They become lusty, angry, proud and envious. The more they learn, the prouder they become. They have no respect for anyone else. They burn in the fire of ego day and night. In this world, such a being is sad and afterwards goes to hell. Therefore, Bhagavan Das, do not try to be too learned. You have already learnt enough. Wealth and other things you will receive according to your destiny. Your pundit panders to self-important rich idiots. So have some compassion for him. Give up lust, anger, greed, and infatuation and worship the Lord. The Lord has already decided the fate of each and every embodied soul, and you will receive whatever the Lord has written into your destiny. Hearing this wonderful speech of Sri Acharyaji, Bhagavan Das's heart began to embrace the concept of devotional life. He addressed Sri Acharyaji, "Oh Maharaj, my doubts have now been cleared, and I understand that the best path is that of worshipping the beloved Lord. Please accept me as your disciple. I will do whatever you tell me in my devotional life." Sri Acharyaji told him to bathe and return, and when he had done so, Sri Acharyaji initiated him with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandha. Bhagavan Das said that he would like now to live close to Sri Acharyaji and serve him. Sri Mahaprabhuji told him, "You will not be capable of living in my entourage. An embodied soul can be guilty of many offences. If for any reason I became displeased with you, then your devotion might be interrupted. The Vaishnavas who live with me here know my character very well, and they are able to stay with me. You should go home, keeping the company of Vaishnavas for some time. After a while, Sri Govardhan Nachi will appear on the Sri Giriraj mountain, and at that time you should go there and serve according to Sri Gosaiji's instructions. Sri Gosaiji will make sure that all your heart's desires to serve will be fulfilled. I have written out the Brahma Sambandha shloka for you. You should cook and offer all the preparations to that. Eat only the Mahaprasad and survive in this way." Bhagavan Das requested from Sri Acharyaji that he be allowed to serve him until he left. Sri Acharyaji agreed, and Bhagavan Das used to bring the water and do all the kitchen service. When Sri Acharyaji sat to give discourses, he would stand behind and wave the whisk and fan. Sri Acharyaji was so pleased with Bhagavan Das that he composed him his Chatur Shloki treatise, 4 verses, and taught it to Bhagavan Das. Sri Acharyaji told him, "You used to be determined to gain knowledge. Now you will begin to grasp all the Vedas, Puranas, and the Srimad Bhagavatam with all their meanings. I am happy with you. Now please go home." Bhagavan Das then bowed to Sri Acharyaji and set off home. Sri Acharyaji again left on his holy grace pilgrimage. Bhagavan Das stayed at home for a long time, during which his wife died. Bhagavan Das was very happy that his ties to his home had now been severed and that he would now be able to go to Vraja. A few more days after that, he heard from the Vaishnavas that Sri Nachi had appeared on the Govardhan mountain and that Sri Gosaiji was serving him there. Bhagavan Das sold everything inside his house and gave the house to one of his Brahmin associates. His parents were not alive. He set out and reached Sri Giriraji after some days' travelling. He had the sight of Srinathji and Sri Gosaiji. He bowed to him and said, "Oh Maharaj, Sri Acharyaji took me to his shelter and at that time told me to come to you to serve. I have come and I have no ties to my worldly home. Please let me do some service for you." Sri Gosaiji was very happy and asked Bhagavan Das to become one of Srinathji's close disciples and cook for the Lords. Bhagavan Das made some very nice preparations for Srinathji. So Sri Gosaiji was very happy and asked Bhagavan Das to become one of Srinathji's close servants and cook for the Lord. Bhagavan Das made some very nice Seva preparations for Srinathji. And we will continue with this Vartaji tomorrow. Until then, Jai Shri Radhe, Shri Vallabhadisha ki Jai, Sabhi Vaishnavan ko Sadar Jai Shri Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe ji.